Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the KBEAR Ink 2 or Ink Mark 2 or Ink Plus or Ink I don't know really how to call it. Ink 2 I guess is probably the best way to name this. This is the sequel to a long line of IEMs that have had the same shell. All the way back in 2019 we got the KBEAR Diamond. Roughly at the same time we got the KBEAR Believe, which was at the time the top of the line single DD from KBEAR. Unfortunately, that's one of those IEMs that I really regret not having gotten, and I would definitely like to get my hands on one as long as it's in good working condition, obviously. But so we had the Diamond. The Diamond then was followed up last year by the Ink, and now the Ink 2. The shell has always remained the same, just the faceplate basically has changed and the color of the actual shell. But anyway, before I show you a little bit more of that, let me just show you the packaging. This is very typical KBEAR for this price point. I believe it's going to be costing $69 with an initial launch price of $59. So basically maintains the price of the original Ink and the price of the Diamond as well. So sleeve, take out the sleeve, open up the box, and you know, KBEAR, especially this version here, is one of those models where you can see that if a brand can offer you high quality accessories at an acceptable price. So the IEMs came over there. First set of tips are these ones, and then it brings the famous KBEAR tips that I personally like and use quite often. I'm actually using the blue colored ones on the Ink 2, as you can see there. The cable, it's also a decent 8-core cable. It's nice enough. I'm just not using it because I wanted to use a balanced cable, and so that's the only reason why I'm not using the cable. So in terms of the tips, the cable, we covered there, and then it brings as well the usual and famous KBEAR case. This kind of leather or leatherette, whatever it is. Cleaning cloth, also brings the cleaning tool. I mean, accessories wise, if you consider the price, top marks, really nothing that we can point at. And if anything, it's a like I said, a lesson to other brands that sometimes skimp on accessories, because by offering these accessories, they say that the other brands say that they don't offer these accessories because they are offering a better quality product. Well, KBEAR does that one better as well, because not only do they offer this high quality accessories, but they offer us a very nicely done shell, metal shell, beautifully designed faceplate, as you can see there. Okay, very nice. 2-pin connector. I mean, brass. The front section of the nozzle is all brass. The works. It's got an 8.8 millimeter DLC diamond-like coating PE diaphragm driver, which is basically the same driver that was used already on the original Ink, and on the Diamond is just an improved version of that driver. Okay. Fit is, in my case, perfect. I have absolutely nothing to complain about. I'm using, like I said, the KBEAR, the blue colored tips. They fit perfectly. They go into my ears perfect. They sit nicely. They got a nice weight to them. You know, they feel like a nice premium product. And that's it. I mean, in terms of the fit, the finish, the overall feel of the product, it's top marks. We really can't point anything out. I'm using a Fahil Hibiscus. There we go, Fahil Hibiscus cable, as I mentioned, 4.4, because that's what I wanted to use. Okay, and yeah, that's basically it. The hardware side of things is covered. So what do I have here then? Well, I've got the Diamond, I've got the original Ink, and I've got the MH755 Sony, and this is an original MH755. I converted it to use MMCX connection, but this is an original 755. It's not a clone. Okay. And why do I have it here? Because these IEMs, they all tried to a certain extent, come up with a tuning curve that is the tuning curve of the 755. Out of all of them, the one that's been the most successful is definitely the Ink 2. Okay, in the original Diamond. We had let's break it down in a different manner. All of them are V-shaped, okay? The original one was, let's say, an average shaped V signature, and by that I mean what? Emphasis on the bass, emphasis on the treble. The mids are recessed, and the mids being recessed brings with it a whole bunch of things, such as the voices are slightly laid back as compared to the bass and the treble. In the diamond as well, that was coupled with the fact that the mids and upper mids could have been done in a slightly more polished manner. And it was fine, it sounded good. I mean, we're talking back 2019, so let's not be too harsh. And I know sometimes I am a little bit hard, and so going back to that time, it was a well-tuned IEM, if not tuned to be, let's say, audiophile correct and so on and so forth, but it was a well-tuned IEM. It had a nice, pleasant sound. The bass, as I said, is and has always been one of the things that this series of earphones do really well. It's got a great extension, loads of weight to the bass, but not without that meaning that it's sluggish or anything of the sort. No, the bass has always been a nice, quick bass. It's got good impact. You feel that visceral sense of the bass in any of them, with improvements having been done across the board. And the best one definitely is the Ink 2. You notice that in the Ink 2, there's just that extra bit more of improvement. Let's put it that way. The mids, as I was saying, have always been recessed, and the diamond, it was just basically that it was rough. That's the best or way I can actually describe it. The upper mids and treble were a little bit rough, and that's what ultimately kind of spoiled everything. It wasn't capable of being a all-rounder, and if you liked vocals and music which was very vocal centric, it would show its shortcomings in that aspect. Then they launched the Ink, and the Ink was basically a copy paste of the diamond, but they've boosted up the mids, upper mids, and what that made was a bright. So if this was let's say, average sounding V signature, this made a bright V signature. And with that, yes, you got a little bit more detailed retrieval. Yes, you got an IEM that at lower volumes sounded a little bit more dynamic, more alive, more detailed. Vocals were a little bit more present, and so on and so forth. But still, they remained recessed. But having that extra energy there in the mids, upper mids, and highs, it showed itself to be beneficial at lower volumes. But the moment you cranked up the volume, things didn't go as well as before, and it became sibilant, it became aggressive, and it lost, how can I put this, it's not that it lost its mojo, it just became excessive in the way that it was unable to cope with everything, so the qualities that it has of being robust and having a really good authoritative bass, when you cranked up the volumes, were not enough to compensate that excessive amount of energy that you had in the upper mids and in the highs, and it just made for a very tiresome IEM that you would listen to it for a while, but then you would eventually get tired especially when you started to wanting to put up the volume. So it was actually, in my opinion, a step backwards, and I believe the diamond, with even its flaws of not being polished, it was still better. And again, although there was an improvement of the technicalities at low volume, as I mentioned before, overall technicalities were also not the big thing about these IEMs. They are about being fun and engaging, and listening to music and tapping your feet and all that. The Ink 2, it has come along now, and in my opinion has it's the best of the two of them, and of the three, it's the best. It's maintained the bass. It's actually the bass is now actually more authoritative, more it's cleaner, it's more impactful, because now you don't have that that excess of upper mids and highs. It sounds more, it just sounds way more balanced. It still is a V-shaped, it's still there, it's still recessed mids, but somehow, because everything now is just fallen into its place in terms of the correct energy that every area should have, that recess has now become a pleasant recess. You know, it's not fatiguing. I can listen to the Ink 2 like I've done for many hours, and it doesn't become fatiguing. You can crank up the volume and everything scales correctly. It doesn't try to kill you. It's non-sibilant now, something that it was before, very much so in the Ink, and to a certain extent as well in the Diamond. So it's cleaned up that harshness of the sound in the upper mids and highs. It's brought down the energy levels to a level which is now matching more correctly and more coherently the bass that you have, and overall the whole sound is just way more pleasant. Fair enough, this is not an IEM if what you want is neutrality and you want to listen to your latest recordings with the ultimate of neutrality and correctness and audiophile bliss. No, that's not what this is about. This is about being fun, period. You know, this is another IEM, very much like a few IEMs I've been reviewing now recently, the CVJ Interstellar is one such IEM that, you know, it's supposed to be fun. The TT Romso, the Tipsy TT Romso as well, it's an IEM that's supposed to be fun and engaging. The Venture Electronics Seer, another one that's like that. So if that's what you want, and if you are afraid of bass, then forget this, go somewhere else. Right? But now, if you like your bass, and if you like your highs, and you don't mind a little bit of a recessed mids, then this one is definitely a contender. Definitely an IEM that you should be having, or finding a way to have to listen to it. It's well accessorized, it's well built, it plays well. You can't really ask for much. In terms of the technicalities, again, it's not the strong point of the Ink 2. It definitely isn't. But because of this improvement that has been done in the way that the whole spectrum is reproduced, yes, things now do sound more correct, in the sense that you have a detailed retrieval which is now the best of the three, because it maintains itself not only at low volume but at mid and at high volumes. Okay, tonally, in terms of timbre and tonality, it's the most correct as well of them. Without any question of that, especially compared to the original Ink, it's way superior. Resolution as well, it's got pretty decent resolution. And in terms of the soundstage, it's still a somewhat closed in soundstage, but the soundstage and the imaging have improved again, especially compared to these two. This is not a soundstage and an imaging which is on the level, let's say, of, for example, of an Oline SE. No, it isn't. But it is a very, very improved soundstage and imaging as compared to the previous two models. And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, this basically says it all about the Ink 2. There's not much more than I can say. Why then do I have here the 755, the Sony? Well, because the moment I listened to it, the first IEM that jumped to my mind was 755. And I would dare say that this is, let's say, a modern day 755. So if there are people out there that want a 755 kind of sound, but in a better shell, with a better driver, better everything, then Ink 2 is definitely the one that you should be looking at. It is uncanny how similar they are. Obviously, different volume levels. The difference in the quality of the drivers is quite substantial. But when you listen to it at the volume which is matched for both of them, they sound tremendous. The 755 has always been one of my favorite goldies, let's put it that way, and the Ink is the Ink 2, excuse me, is very much a modern day 755. So that's it, guys. I'll show you now the graphs, and we'll wrap it up from there. All right, take care. Hi guys, and welcome now to my review of the KBEAR INK 2. The first graph that I'm showing you is actually of the Diamond, and the reason why is I want you to see the evolution of things. The Diamond, crazy amounts of bass. That was never a problem. It had a little bit of bleeding to the mids, but it wasn't anything too dramatic as well. Then progressive pinna gain. The problem was of everything, of these threes, they are definitely very pronounced V shapes. We're talking about everything being within a window of 81 to 95, so 14 dBs window. So the mids obviously suffer because of that excessive energy at both ends. And then, although looking at this, it doesn't seem too bad. It was just a little bit unpolished. And then, although it does give you a sense of having good technicalities and good soundstage and so on, this crazy amount of bass that is present doesn't really let this area shine. But anyway, that was the Diamond. They then came out with the Ink, and the Ink maintained the bass, maintained everything, but just they gave it this boost here, and this boost just in my opinion was excessive. If on the Diamond it was borderline, okay, and it was with the Ink 2 it became with the Ink it became just too much, and it became an IM which was sibilant. There was too much. Even with this amount of bass, I could pick up on the 5K peak very easily, like Up and Up from Jeff Ryan. You notice those trumpets. You trust me, that they come through big time. The sax, not trumpet, the sax. You notice it very, very much. In my opinion, it was a step back, and with that, also the technicalities actually went backwards as well. So it wasn't an improvement. It was actually a very noticeable stepping back. Yes, at low volumes, like I said, it was detailed and so on and so forth, but no. Then they finally now came out with the Ink 2, okay? And that's definitely an improvement. I mean, let me just take away here. So compared to the original Diamond, you see that they've cleaned up things. They've moved this 5K peak. It's now sloping down. There's no sibilance. There's nothing. Very similar to the Diamond, but way more polished, okay? Compared to the Ink, the difference is very, very pronounced. The pin again is slightly more relaxed. Peaks way lower. We're talking about things now staying within in terms of the mids. So 81 to 94 roughly, so 12 dB, so they've brought it down just slightly, but that bringing it down slightly more evenly matches the amount of bass that you have, and everything just comes across smoother, if that is the best word to use in this case. So still the mids are recessed, still we have all of those things which, in terms of the technicalities are not the ideal and so on and so forth, but it is unquestionably a big improvement over the original Ink, and an improvement over the Diamond. And then finally, as I was mentioning, this reminded me of very much so of the sorry, I actually took out the wrong way. Let me leave the other. So the Ink 2 reminded me very much of the Sony, the MH755, and that's the graph of the MH755, and you can see why, because yes, it's got the same kind of bass curve, everything, but the MH755, at least the one I have, it's even the area between 2.5 and 8K is still a little bit less energetic, and that just makes for a very, very nice sounding IM. Yes, okay, we know the mids are not what they should be, but it just sounds absolutely amazing. The 755 again has the cult following that it has because it is a special IM. And that's it, guys. Anyway, any questions you might have, please feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer as quickly as possible. Take care now. Bye bye.